What's up YouTube? Brian here, back again with another high-end rod review, and today we're taking a look at this bad boy, the Megabass P5 Destroyer Addermine. First off, quick housekeeping note, if you're not following me down on Instagram, I please invite you to do so. I'm at Punch Fishing on Instagram. This is where I post a lot of my on-the-water content and a lot of daily snarky things about the fishing industry, and I talk about all the new gear and things that are coming out. So anyway, if you're not following me on Instagram, I highly suggest it. I would love if you did. Thank you very much. All right, let's dive into this rod review. So, the old Addermine, I did a review on. I'm going to leave a link right up here if you want to check it out. Let's do a little history lesson on this rod real quick out of the gate. Number one, this thing debuted in the old Megabass US Destroyer line. It was one of the initial launch spinning rods, so the Addermine came out. It caught fire quick. People really, really liked the Addermine when it came out in the US Destroyer line. Everyone loved it as like a primary drop shot rod, as a Ned rig rod, as a paddle tail swim bait rod. All the things that the old Addermine was kind of lured for and known for, 100%. All that stuff you can do on this one. It's pretty much the same as far as like techniques go. The one thing about the old Addermine that was awesome was the sensitivity. The old Addermine was insanely sensitive. It was like you could feel a bluegill swim by your Ned rig on that thing. It was like a tuning fork. It was as sensitive, if not more sensitive, than like NRX rods at the time. It was just literally one of the most sensitive rods I've ever felt. I loved using mine, and then, well, I broke it. So I did something really stupid one day last season. It was like kind of in the middle, early part of summer. I did something really dumb with the rod. I snapped the tip. I was really sad about it. But then I remembered, oh yeah, they rebooted the rod in the P5, so I could just go on Omnia and order the replacement newer version. So that's what I did. As soon as that rod broke, the next week I had a new Addermine come to the door from Omnia, and I've been using the new version since. So I have a lot of time on this rod. Almost the entire last summer, plus I've been using it a little bit this spring. But yeah, I got a lot of time on this thing. So let's talk about this rod specifically. So this is a 610. It is a f3.5, which is basically a medium. So it's a medium, just basically a medium. Let's talk about the action on this thing. So this thing has a pretty forgiving tip. Softish tip, right? And then when you're kind of bending it in your hand or on the floor or whatever, you kind of feel like, oh, this is a pretty traditional fast, maybe almost medium light, traditional fast. And it feels like it kind of shuts off right down here in the rod. But this has that Megabass Destroyer, that 5D construction that has like secondary actions. And when you hear that secondary action thing, you don't really feel that playing with the rod in the store or in your house or pushing it down your floor. But when you're out fishing and you catch a fish with this thing, this action on this rod goes deep down into the blank. Almost this whole blank bends when you got a fish on. And I got a really great fish catch video that I'm going to show you guys in a few minutes. So if you stick around, you can see a fish catch video with this rod, and you can see exactly what I'm talking about, that secondary action and how far this thing actually bends down into the blank when you're fighting a bass. That wasn't exactly how the old Addermine was. The old Addermine was kind of a more traditional, medium, fast, extra fast. It's kind of a more traditional rod. This rod is definitely, this blank definitely has different characteristics than the old US Destroyer does. And I wonder if that hurts the sensitivity a smidge, because this rod is not the tuning fork and super sensitive rod that the old Addermine was. So if that's kind of the bummer to me. I was like, can they recreate that amazing sensitivity that was in that old one? They didn't quite nail that. I'd say the old one was like literally a 10 out of 10. Like one of the most sensitive rods I've ever touched in my life. This thing is more in that like 7.5 to 8 territory. Definitely not as sensitive. You're not missing bites. It's not a slouch in the sensitivity department by any means. But if you had the old Addermine and you're wondering if you should upgrade to this one, I would say no. Like if you have the old Addermine, that's still one of the greatest spinning rods ever made. Keep it. Don't worry about it. But if you're in the market and you're looking for or looking to buy this new one, just know that it's not the super sensitive tuning fork that the old one was known for, but it's no slouch in that department either. But this thing has a lot of other positives that almost outweigh that. So let me talk about those real quick. So number one, fit and finish on this thing. Fantastic, as usual on all P5s. The grip is controversial. Some people like the P5 spinning grip. Some people hate it. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I've been using it so much at this point, I'm kind of getting used to it. Like I still don't love it, but I'm fine. I've accepted it. So I'm a pinky gripper. So when I grip here, I'm getting my almost always my index finger and my thumb are almost always touching the blank. I very rarely get that little piece of cork right here. So, so you're grabbing the blank, you're touching this metal ring right here. Allegedly touching metal and touching the blank is going to give you more sensitivity in your hands. You're going to feel more bites, all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. So, the grip is controversial. You're either going to love the grip, you're going to hate the grip, or you're just going to be ambivalent about the grip and don't really care. Either way, the whole rod is super light. It's a 3.5 ounce rod. Balance on this thing is also fantastic. So I have a Daiwa Exist 3000 on this thing right now. This is not the reel I ran most of the year on this rod. Most of the time last year I was running it on an Xsense 3000 because I didn't have one of these yet. This particular Exist is the shallow spool version. This is the LT 3000H, so this has the more shallow spool and the higher gear ratio. So this is kind of like the bass fishing version of the Exist 3000 that came out. Anyway, I ran an Xsense 3000 on it. The balance is superb. The balance on the Exist is superb. Basically, my point is you want to run a 2500 or 3000 lightweight reel with this thing. Just keep the whole package as light as you can. So use a lightweight reel because it's going to balance perfectly and the whole package is going to be just stupid bonkers light. Okay, so fit and finish. I don't have to talk about that in these P5s. You all know these are some of the most beautiful, well-crafted rods on the market. We got SIC guides, titanium. Fit and finish is great. We got to talk a little bit about the action on this thing because this is where it's really hard to describe until you're actually fishing and using this thing. But so this is a medium power rod. The action is, I guess, fast. But the thing is, like, when you bend this rod in your hand or on the floor, it kind of feels like a traditional kind of fast action. You don't really notice that all Megabass P5s have that secondary action because of the 5D blank construction. I'm not, I don't know all the marketing copy on how they make these blanks, but the point is I have a fish catch video I'm going to show you guys in a few minutes that actually shows how really deep the bend on this rod gets when you actually are hooked into a fish. So when you bend it, it like feels like a traditional fast action, but when you actually set the hook on a fish, almost this entire blank bends. Like it goes deep down in, it gets down into here where it's still bending over when you're fighting a fish. So it's kind of fun. I'm going to show you the fish catch video in a couple minutes, so just stay tuned. So the action on this thing is really cool, really deep. It makes it a very versatile rod. So some of the techniques that I really love throwing on this rod is, number one, Ned rigs. This is literally one of the best and most fun Ned rig rods on the planet. If you haven't thrown a Ned rig on an Addermine, it is a hoot. I'm a big Ned rig fan. It's literally what I still have tied on this thing right now. I have a Josh Douglas Perfect Ned Head tied on right now. This is a 2-aught 1/8 ounce, I think, right here. So anyway, literally what I run. I also run 10-pound braid. This is Daiwa J-Braid Grand to a 8-pound. Or sometimes, I do usually an 8-pound, but sometimes a 6-pound fluorocarbon leader, usually in Vizix. So just a 10-pound line, 8-pound leader is mostly what I run almost all the time. Also, very, very, very capable drop shot rod. This is a great drop shot rod for throwing like 1/4 ounce, 3/8, nose hooking, Texas rigging, whatever. This is just a great drop shot rod as well. Also really good at throwing small paddle tail swim baits. So if you're throwing like 1/8 ounce paddle tails, finesse paddle tail swim baits, especially up shallow when fish are up on flats, when they're pre-spawn, post-spawn, they're still up roaming around shallow. That's when this thing can be really fun, throwing like lightweight paddle tails up in the shallows. This thing also can fish deep. It's no slouch fishing deep either. You can throw finesse Nico rigs on this thing, also really great. Hover strolling. Hover strolling is now kind of a big thing on the map. This thing has a whippy, soft enough-ish tip to fish slightly heavier mid-strolling setup. So if you're throwing like a 3/16 or 1/8 with a slightly bigger hook and a slightly bigger bait, like say a full 4 or 5 inch bait on a mid-strolling technique, you can absolutely do that with this. I wouldn't throw really light mid-strolling stuff where you need a really whippy tip to impart that side-to-side action, where you're really going tap, 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 and you're getting it to go side to side. You're going to want a softer rod for that. But if you're throwing a slightly bigger hook, bigger weighted thing, absolutely, this thing can double up as a mid-strolling rod. You can Demiki mop rig with this thing too, where you're throwing like a 1/4 ounce, slightly heavier head, and you're just dropping right down on a fish's head on your forward-facing sonar, and you just are shaking it literally like up off a rock or something. Totally fine at that as well. So this thing is definitely like your friend if you're a forward-facing sonar, active target, live scope person, because this thing, I'm kind of all over the map on this thing, but one of my favorite things about this rod is just how precise you can be with casts. You can drop baits on a fish's head with forward-facing sonar with this rod because it has got just a really accurate casting profile. I don't really know how to describe it, but if you want to get to something, you just kind of like flick it and it just goes there. Like this is just one of the easiest casting rods in my entire spinning rod arsenal. And it surprisingly can make long casts for 610 because of that softish tip and that kind of deep secondary, not parabolic action, but that deep bend that this blank is capable of. You can really chuck a bait out there. Like you can throw a drop shot really far with this thing. You can throw a paddle tail, even a Ned rig. You can bomb a Ned rig with this thing. Just because it's 610 does not mean it's not going to make long casts, especially with braid. Anyway, fantastic caster, great fit and finish, very versatile for a lot of finesse techniques, especially bottom contact type stuff like Ned rig. Price isn't bad, $475 for this thing, sub $500. Balances really well with pretty much any lightweight reel, and the sensitivity is good, I'd say great, not excellent. Great, not top of the spear like the old one was. Still very good. Anyway, just a really fantastic fun rod to fish. If you're a Ned rig fisherman, if you're a drop shot, if you're a finesse nerd and you want one rod that can just do a bunch of stuff, here you go. Like if I had to pick between this rod and the Windbuster, I'm taking this rod every single day. Like the Windbuster is a great complement to this thing because Windbuster can handle heavier stuff like finesse jigs, free rig, that kind of stuff. But this rod is way more in my wheelhouse for my favorite techniques. So if I had to like pick one Megabass P5 spinning rod to just kind of be a versatile stick to have around to do a bunch of stuff, the Addermine is 100% my starting quarterback for all finesse tech. For all main finesse tactics. You could even get away throwing a wacky Senko on this thing if you really needed to. It's got the power, it's got the versatility, and it is just an overall really fun, pleasurable rod to use. So let's jump over to the fish catch video. I'm going to jump over to the laptop here. So this was out on a flat. Excuse me, this is a largemouth lake. Fishing a flat with a Ned rig. I believe I was using an X-Zone Ned bait, one of the purple, it's like a purple pink X-Zone Ned bait. As soon as it hit the water, fish grabbed it, started swimming with it. I felt the bite on the slack line, reeled down, set the hook. This rod is sensitive enough to feel slack line bites, 100%, especially on braid. You can hear the exist screaming a little bit. Let me try and get a shot. So right there, you're kind of in that first part of the action on the rod. So as you can see, it's kind of bending traditionally. But when I'm really horsing that fish around, you can see where that like secondary action really kind of jumps in. I'm going to see if I can get a clip of that, because I was kind of shocked when I was watching the video. Right there. So as I'm horsing this fish to the side, the bend goes even deeper. So as I pushed on this blank more, it goes deep and it's bending down to that first guide. And if you notice, there's even a bow where my finger to that front my finger to the stripper guide right there, you can tell it's bending. Like this blank will bend all the way down to the handle if you want it to. What? So yeah, look at how deep that's bending. Like that's not like the traditional extra fast medium power spinning rod. Like these P5 blanks are kind of cool.
X-Zone Ned bait.
And you can really feel it when you're fighting a fish with this rod. It's really hard to describe that deep secondary action on these rods.
Ooh, fighter. All right.
He's like a 2-pounder, high twos, right. Something like that.
There we go. Nice, healthy, largemouth bass. Josh Douglas perfect Ned head with the X-Zone Ned bait on the Addermine.
Ooh, not the greatest release. So yeah, jump back over to the main camera. So yeah, as you can see, when you do hook a fish and you really lean into that rod, the characteristics on this blank just get wild. So fun rod to use. I definitely am going to be keeping this thing around. It's definitely one of the rods that makes it out of my deck most of the time, especially smallmouth fishing. This is just a really great, fun smallmouth rod. If you're a smallmouth fisherman, this rod can just do so much stuff. But, not a slouch for largemouth as well. I even have had fun crappie fishing with this rod. Like I've thrown really finesse Ned, like the little mini finesse Neds for crappie fishing that they make. So you can double as a crappie fishing rod if you need it. Can catch walleyes with this thing. Definitely great for both species of bass. Anyway, long story short, I love this rod. It's a great piece from Megabass. They really knocked out of the park the Addermine, and what's great about the old Addermine, all the versatility and all the cool stuff you can do with it finesse wise has definitely carried over to this new model. But you're also getting the fresh coat of paint, that deep secondary action on the blank. You're getting the new minimalist grips, which some people love, some people hate. Personally, I think the grips on the new X10, I have the Medusa. I'll be doing a video about that rod later this summer. But the Medusa, like those new X10 spinning grips are amazing. I wish those grips were on this rod, to be honest, because I love them that much. Anyway, that being said, if you are an Addermine owner and you use it for any techniques that I did not describe, please leave a comment down in the description. Tell the world what you like to use your Addermine for, because I'm sure there's a lot of cool techniques that I haven't even scratched the surface with this thing, because it is a super versatile stick. So that being said, I'm glad you watched the end of the video. If you have made it this far, please hit like, please hit subscribe, please leave a comment, feed the algorithm, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.